All right, let's get into it. We're going to be getting into Thor Love and Thunder. So, Thor Love and Thunder, like I said, is the fourth film in the Thor franchise. We're going to be doing a nice spoiler review for it. Again, Taika Waititi is back. He directed Thor Ragnarok, and back again as Chris Hemsworth as the titular character Thor, and some returning people, returning people you haven't seen in a while, like Natalie Portman, who's coming back as the character of Jane Foster. Jane Foster, who we last saw in Thor 2, Thor the Dark World, which... a lot of people now are going like, maybe, Thor the Dark World was not so bad after seeing this, Love and Thunder. As I can see some people going like, yeah, there was kind of a lot of great things about that movie. I'm kind of going to be getting into a little bit of discussion about Phase 4, this newest Thor movie. How's it really, stack up against the other Thor movies? Is the worst? Is it the best? Is it in the middle somewhere? So we're kind of going to be getting all into that. So here, we're going to really, like I said, it's a spoiler review. Going to really let loose with all the details in the movie. So if you have not seen the movie, we are doing a spoiler review for it. Come back in probably like 30 minutes, or so. We're probably going to be done. But yeah, like I said, we're going to delve into all the things, including the two post-credit scenes of this movie and all the details of it. So. In this movie, you have the villain of the film, who's played by Christian Bale, Gore the God Butcher. Gore the God Butcher, who is from the comics, whose whole mission is to kill the gods after being pretty much betrayed by them, pretty much spit on by them. Decides to be set on a mission to kill all the gods with the Necro Sword, as it is. Which is a shame they couldn't really include a lot of the stuff that the sword is a symbiote, because obviously Sony owns that with the Venom stuff, but that was kind of a little disappointing. But you have that here, and he comes in to intersect with Thor, and Thor must stop Gore from killing all these other gods and from reaching the point of eternity, is what they call it. That's what that center of the universe, where he can wish for all the gods to be dead. With this film, I gave my thoughts on it yesterday in non-spoiler review, which you all can watch in the full pod that's up right now on YouTube. But my initial thoughts on it was, I don't think it's better than Ragnarok, but I think that it's somewhere, still think it's the second best of these Thor movies. Thor as a character, I know there's been some talk about ever since Ragnarok onward that people have not liked that character change. Me personally, I've liked, Thor Ragnarok was a film that I loved. I think it's one of the few great MCU movies there is, and I think I like the direction of the character change that Thor has had. I know some people really don't, and I think that I can see some people's points with this, where with Love and Thunder, that there was a lot of jokes in here. Some didn't really work all that well, but Taika Waititi, it seems like it was a lot of rapid fire kind of going on. It felt like it was his character from Free Guy directing Thor, Love and Thunder, and not Taika Waititi that we saw from What We Do in the Shadows or, Hunt for the Wilder People directing, like how he did in Ragnarok. But I did like the look of the movie. I did like the chemistry between Jane and between Thor. I thought that was really great. But I wanted to kind of get you guys' thoughts on the film. Hunter.
Yeah, so since I started my podcast, I've reviewed every Marvel film. Um, the median for me is usually about between like a B and a B plus. I think Marvel rarely misses. Um, I had nerds come after my black ass because I gave Ragnarok a B, and people came out with their torches like, "How fucking dare you?" And I was like,
Mm.
"I liked it. I don't love it. I'm sorry." And I've gone back and watched it like two or three times, and I don't know. I think the big thing for me is that for Ragnarok being the end of Asgard, I did think the film was too jokey for me at least. I thought it should have been a little more serious with Asgard ending. So yeah, so that was just kind of like my hang up with it. So heading into this, I was really curious because I'm such a fan of Taika. What We Do in the Shadows, of course. Jojo Rabbit, I think, is one of the best movies in the last decade. I
Wow.
fucking love I love Jojo
Oh,
Rabbit,
okay.
and so I was really curious going into this, and goddamn, this movie just really works for me. I had
Really?
so much fun. I had so much fun with this movie. It's not perfect. There are some jokes that I did kind of just go like, all right, like that one didn't hit for me. But I can count on one hand how many jokes there were that missed for me. Uh, People going like this is worse than a dark world, or you're just wrong. You're so genuinely wrong. Like I don't like it's kind of ridiculous how wrong you are. They draw a lot from Jason Aaron's 2013 Thor run here, especially with Gore and with Jane Foster and Natalie Portman. First off, brava for getting to ridiculous shape to play the mighty Thor. Natalie Portman, I mean, she always looks amazing, but she really put in the work with the action scenes and everything. I think the way that she uses Mjolnir, especially, makes her feel very, very credible to wield the hammer. And so many of her character beats, especially with the whole cancer diagnosis, which is from the comic. Um, they do a really good job. Portman does a really good job of relaying that sense of like a ticking clock of oh shit, how much time
Hmm.
do I have left? And one thing that the Dark World really does struggle with is their relationship. Like that was probably my biggest, just like, you guys just are not getting this. And Korg is a really good narrator here, but they do a really good job of showing just through flashbacks leading up to present how, Thor's an Avenger, Jane is, a very in-demand scientist, and so like their schedules just, I mean, people just grow apart. Sometimes it happens, and so when they actually break up and everything, and then come back together, it's really cool to see because Thor's experienced so much loss. He's lost Asgard, he's lost Loki, he's lost his dad. The Avengers aren't a thing right
Yeah.
now, and so seeing Thor kind of have that realization of wow, this was one of the few wonderful stable things in my life, and it just didn't work out. And having that chance to rekindle that, I think it's inspired. I think Hemsworth does a great job of just being goofy when he needs to be goofy, but being serious when he needs to be serious. Christian Bale, goddamn, the whole Gore arc just works so well for me. There is this one shot of him when he kidnaps the kids, where he comes through the cage, like pops up through the back, and that shit scared my ass so bad. I was like, oh shit, okay. Like there's a couple actual very intense uh moments with Bale's gore that really worked for me. But I've got a lot more to say, but I'll pass off to someone else. But I really enjoyed it.
Ashley?
I think you nailed it earlier when you're saying that that you like this iteration of Thor more than the previous versions because I really have never been interested in the character of Thor. I've always found him an incredibly boring character, and especially in the first two movies, it's like I can take or leave those ones honestly. That when you treat him as a serious character, and it was only until Taika picked him up in Ragnarok and made him a comedic character that I actually started to care because it leans on all of Chris Hemsworth's best strength as an actor because he's an incredibly funny guy, and
Yeah.
he walks that line between action hero and comedian such a plum that it should almost be criminal how well he does it and how well he balances the two. And I honestly, I think Ragnarok nailed it. And this is a continuation of it. And I like this version of Thor. He, Taika made me actually give a crap about Thor for the first time. And this movie was no different. I think you're right. I think it's probably not better than Ragnarok, but it's damn close in my opinion. And I just pound for pound, I just had a blast watching the movie from beginning to end. Like the movie's like what 2 hours long, a little over two
2
hours long,
hours. Yeah.
and it felt it was 40 minutes by the time I got to the end of it. The whole thing was just this freight train that moved along, and I was never not entertained. There was absolutely not a single lull moment in the film. And there's so many goddamn jokes in this movie. And honestly, they all worked for me for the most part. And I've seen people complain about, you know, the goats, how it's this one joke that gets used
So
over
good.
and over and over
So
again.
good.
The goat never got old for me.
Same.
Every single time I laughed at the goats. It should have been grating at a certain point, but it never stopped being funny for me. And that's kind of what this movie is. It probably feels more like an inconsequential film, even though there are some genuine emotional beats, um, especially with Jane's story in this film. But it plays much more like a fun, breezy, entertaining romp of a film, and I just absolutely loved it. I adored this film. The people who are hating on this film and calling it the period worst period movie ever period, I have no idea what movie these people are watching. Like, I don't want to say, that they're wrong or they're bad or anything like that, because it's like, whatever, different opinions. If it didn't work for you, I'm sorry it didn't work for you. I wish you saw the movie that I saw, but I honestly don't know what movie they were watching, because I thought this movie was just like, uh, it was probably the most fun Marvel movie that I've seen yet.
Hmm. Interesting. Matt, did you see it by any chance?
No, I didn't get to see it yet. Released here on Thursday, but I spent the weekend at the beach, so
Oh, okay.
didn't
Uh,
have time for it. Yeah.
so I guess, yeah, if you want to mute us, if we're talking about spoilers, I guess you could do that. I'm gonna have you up next after we do this. You and Hunter do minions for that. I'm gonna have you up next. Yeah. So with this movie, yeah, I mean, I don't think I'm as high on it as you two are. I mean, call it one of the most entertaining kind of Marvel movies. Yeah, I'm definitely not as high as that on this film. There's some moments, yeah, I think that really didn't work, and there's some moments that I think that really did. I think it's kind of somewhat a little bit of a mixed bag there. The screaming goat stuff, I think it was funny the first couple of times. You know what I mean? I think they kind of run it into the ground a little bit.
I don't begrudge anyone who felt like that joke wore itself out.
Yeah,
That's the one joke I'll go like, yeah, fair enough, but I giggled each time.
yeah. So I thought that was a little kind of one note. I did like the humor involving, kind of this four way between Thor and Jane and Stormbreaker and Mjolnir. I enjoyed that. I thought that was pretty good. You know what I mean? Just the relationship between all four of them. And like I said, I enjoyed that they actually made me care about the Thor and Jane relationship, something I didn't before in the previous movies. Here, I think it's given more context to the relationship, and I think it really makes you care about the two of them. And then I think this is the best chemistry they've ever had in any of the other movies before, which I thought was another great thing. And to see kind of I think some other returning characters like Valkyrie. Tessa Thompson's always great as Valkyrie. I think
Yeah.
she has so much fun in that role. That was much appreciated. And then Taika Waititi to come back as Korg. I like Korg. I think Korg's a decent addition to these movies. The Guardian stuff, I mean, they were only in the movie for the first 10 minutes, of the film. I think you could have done some better stuff with him in the Guardians, than what they did. Is Thor supposed to be in the next Guardians movie too, or no?
No, so apparently
I'm
it's just
guessing
Guardians.
not.
Yeah, because they're introducing Adam Warlock, so that's gonna be the big arc for that movie.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is basically like, this is where we continue off from, what was it, Endgame, where they all like
Yeah.
Yes.
go off together. Thor's going with them on whatever adventures, and by the time we get to the end of Thor, uh, Love and Thunder, it's like Thor's like left the Guardians of the Galaxy. So I'm guessing by the time we get to Guardians 3, Thor's not going to be there.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I just thought you could have done better stuff with them. I thought, the movie, coming in at 2 hours, it did feel like, yeah, I mean, it was like, oh, I think that time went by pretty fast. But there's a lot of this movie that does feel like it's cut. Like, I think there could have been a lot more gore stuff. I think there could have been more stuff with Christian Bale. It's like, yeah, I did really like him, but it just felt like he wasn't in the movie nearly enough. I actually wanted to see him kill more guys because you only really get to see him kill one guy throughout the entire movie. The rest is just shown on screens. or the aftermath of it. To see Jamie Alexander come back as Lady Sif. I liked Jamie Alexander. I liked her as Lady Sif. I mean, she was. I guess she was the only person that people even remembered who who the other team of his members were. The what they call the Warriors 3 plus Sif, right?
Yeah, so yeah, they got done dirty in Ragnarok. That was one of my bigger complaints. I was like, God damn, they were just like they were nothing.
Yeah.
But
Uh,
yeah, but yes,
I mean,
but
they
Sif
got
got
done
some.
dirty, but how many people can even remember their names?
yeah.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. So in this, and then he continues to do them dirty, Taika Waititi, where he says, "Oh, that guy," and then that guy, when he's mentioning all the bad stuff that what I
Yeah,
mean,
that
it's ever
was.
happened to him. He continues to kind of disrespect them there. But yeah, so she's back, and she's in a very comic accurate costume when you see her.
Yep.
Which was nice. And the only reason I don't think her character got killed in that mass extinction of all the other kind of Asgardians is because she was filming Blind Spot at the time Ragnarok was going on, so she couldn't be there.
Yes, but they confirmed she actually was a victim of the snap
Okay,
too. So yeah.
yes, so that's the reason why she probably wasn't there for that. Yeah, and she's on the movie for a little bit. I think a lot of the stuff is kind of super fast paced and kind of what I mean. It feels like so much stuff was kind of cut out, and maybe they said there's like a 4 hour cut of this movie. And then Taika Waititi even said he doesn't want to see that cut released. He said that a lot of it just didn't work. You know what I mean? It was kind of a lot of rapid fire kind of stuff. When they go to the city, what was the name of the city with all the gods?
Omnipotent,
I,
omnipotent city. Jesus
yeah,
Christ, there we go.
yeah. I had you say that. I was like, what was the name of that city again? Because I wanted you to say it. I didn't want to fuck it up like that.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, fair enough.
but yeah, I thought Russell Crowe's Zeus. What were your thoughts on Russell Crowe's Zeus?
You want to go, Ashley?
Sure. I mean, I thought he was fine. He was fun. It was just kind of like a one note. What are they going for? Okay, we have a bunch of petulant gods. They're basically hiding out and pretending that they're king shit of the universe, but not afraid to actually really do anything. And I thought Russell Crowe filled that role fine. Is it almost seemed like he was almost playing like a parody of like the machoism of some of his earlier roles, like Gladiator and whatnot. So
Yeah,
I thought he was a lot of fun in the role, even though he isn't a very big part of the movie.
Yeah.
yeah.
Question for
Oh,
either of you: like, have you ever heard Zeus with a Greek accent before?
I mean, in the old Clash of the Titans and whatnot, but
yeah,
even then, if I recall, it was like more of like a British accent
yeah.
whenever they did it.
I think I've seen it. I think I've seen Zeus more with that accent in plays than I've seen in like actual media.
Yeah.
Because yeah,
And in like the more recent Clash of the Titans movies, wasn't it? It was Liam Neeson, right?
Yeah.
yeah, and he
So
did
we have like
wasn't doing
heavy
it.
Irish accent.
Yeah, yeah. Zeus following
Release
black.
the Kraken.
Yes, Zeus following black people home from bars, but but yeah, Zeus. So the thing that I'm loving about Phase Four, and I know people are just like, Phase Four is the worst, which we've been spoiled, but Phase Four feels like it's being written by an atheist, and I find that incredibly hilarious because every movie is just more of a dig at like the concept of God in general. Because Thor talks about how Zeus is like his hero and like inspired a lot of his powers and his moves and all that, and Zeus just tears that shit down so quickly to reveal, yeah, I'm a total piece of shit, and you're like, God, that took like 5 minutes. Fuck, okay, and
Hmm.
it's done in like a kind of a haha way, but it's actually pretty tragic when Thor's just like, God damn, dude, I look, yeah, goddamn, like I looked up to you, motherfucker. Like, why are you so fucking afraid? And that's one reason why the gore stuff works for me so well, is because um, if you're familiar with your Bible kids, the story of Job in the Old Testament, where God basically tells Satan like, oh, I can take everything away from this guy and he'll still worship me, and it's very it's similar in ways to this, because Gore really does lose everything. and he praises God, and the God's just like, "Oh, you're a stupid human," and like fucking spits on him, and goes like, "You're not shit," and Gore just goes, "Oh, hey, sword," and kills this God. And the thing is, when he's like going off on these monologues about how the gods failed him, it's like, as an audience member, I'm like, he's not wrong though.
Yeah.
Like he's 1,000% correct. And
He's
Thor,
a sympathetic villain.
yeah, and so when Thor has that realization that the gods are just okay, even Zeus even says Asgardian problems are Asgardian problems, which you just go eek. Like it plays so ugly in the context, but that's the intent, of that. And so, to Ashley's point about Russell Crowe, we've hit that perfect blend of like Mummy Russell Crowe and Unhinged, like slash the Nice Guys Russell Crowe, where he's like bigger but he's not fat. Like he's like like he's
Yeah.
just in shape enough to play Zeus, but also not fucking ripped. And it's so wonderful. Like when he's talking to Thor and just like, yeah, have some grapes, have some wine. And you're just like, man, you have a fucking thunderbolt, and you're just like, I'm just gonna chill and do nothing. And that scene, of course, has the whole to quote Taika, you get the full Hemsworth, you get
Yeah.
Chris Hemsworth butt, which I saw on an IMAX screen, and oh my god, what a like my theater damn near gave it a standing ovation. Like I was like, Jesus Christ, which hey, enjoy. But yeah, that whole scene is a lot of fun. I will say I kind of wish Gore would have shown up there, and that's one of my few gripes with the movie. I wish he would have shown up there and killed a couple gods, because I felt like that was a perfect place to have him kind
Yeah.
of kind of go on a rampage. Um, but to see Thor's kind of that pedestal that he had the gods on torn down still works for me. But um, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was gonna happen in that moment actually when he was there. And I was kind of surprised they show full ass. It's the full moon that happens, and they also mention orgies twice in an MCU movie. They
yeah.
also mention that. Um,
He
yeah.
also swore a lot in the movie. He said shitty quite a few times in the movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
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 Yeah. Oh, okay. I kind of missed that. Yeah, but you kind of see that happen in this film. Um, some of the negatives I had with, like I said, the humor, but also I think some of the VFX stuff in it is not. Yeah, I think the look of the movie overall looks good. Like I like all the when they go to the city with all the gods. I think that looks very good. I think Thor and all his different costumes look good. You know, it's another issue I kind of have sometimes with this, not only in this movie but in superhero movies in general, is the stuff with the mask of how it kind of just kind of digitally gets removed or something like that. Like it's nanotechnology or something instead of actual like a physical looking helmet that somebody puts on and off. It's just like it's like when Black Panther was in Civil War. It's like I like that it looked more like a physical costume and he took the helmet off, and that just looked better than what in his own movie we had like the beads that just kind of came all over him. I don't know. It's just a personal thing with
I'll
me.
I
give me
I
the beads,
agree
baby.
with you like 99%, but it's also kind of like a practicality thing. And ultimately, you want to be able to see the actor's face, but you also want to like not just like do Stallone Judge Dredd, where we just jettison the helmet entirely.
Hey,
And
Carl
it,
Urban, Judge Red.
yeah, exactly. But it's I just kind of accept it as just like, okay, well, this is kind of what we have to do because we're making a movie and we want to see actors' faces. But at the same time, we still want to have this headgear, so we got to do the nanotechnology thing. And I sort of agree. I think it's a little bit of a lame cop out. I don't love it. I just kind of tolerate it.
Hmm.
You get what you're saying though. Like it doesn't bug me, but like to Ashley's point, the practicality of like Wakandan tech in general, there's no fucking way you could like
Yeah.
build something to be like that. But I do get what you're saying.
Yeah.
Like if they kept having you take on the masks or take on helmets and do that constantly, they would probably just find an excuse, like in a horror movie, to lose people's cell phones. They would find an excuse to lose people's helmets or masks somewhere in the story.
There.
Yeah. What were kind of you guys' thoughts on the VFX? Because I think how do you know how many MCU projects there have been this year that they.
Oh Christ. 30. No.
Well, I mean,
Like,
this is the second theatrical. But then
Yes.
you have what, like two Disney Plus
Mo-
series?
yeah, Moon Knight was this year, and then we've got Miss Marvel
Yeah.
going
Miss
on right now.
Marvel,
So that's four.
and then She-Hulk is
Uh,
coming. Black Panther 2
yeah,
is coming.
She-Hulk is
Yeah.
August. Black Panther is November. I think that's it for the rest of the year.
Yeah. Do you think it's just too many projects and that's forcing like the VFX team to kind of rush? Because I was looking on, I saw something where somebody was also saying like they were working on the VFX. I don't know if it's completely true or not, but it was like a Reddit post where somebody was like, yeah, it's like they want these kind of things out so fast that we can't meet that demand. And a lot of VFX people, it seems like they're overworked and underpaid for kind of what they're doing. And that's why you kind of see a little of this stuff that kind of looks shoddy a lot of the times. Because I thought there were moments in this movie, like with the goats and everything, that didn't look really all that good. What kind of your thoughts on?
Yes and no, but it's not a Marvel problem. It's an industry-wide problem.
Yeah.
Because every movie at this point that goes out theatrically more or less has pretty substantial visual effects in it. Like the amount of visual effects that were in films 20 years ago as opposed to today is a ridiculous jump. Every shot in these movies is a visual effects shot. And these all go out to, even though Marvel has like partners for VFX vendors that they work with, they have like, a slew of companies that they work with, like Lola and Third Floor and Method and a bunch of other VFX houses that they spread this across that they regularly use. Every other film from every other studio is also accessing those vendors and more. And there's just a limit of like good VFX at this point is just an equation of time plus money, essentially. And there's
Yeah.
just not enough time to produce all of the shots that are required for the VFX artists that are in the industry. There's a real kind of limitation. And it's the other unfortunate side of this is a lot of this gets pawned off on VFX because VFX at this point is a non-union industry, whereas the rest of the film industry is union. So
Hmm.
it becomes really easy to kind of force this onto VFX houses where that becomes the cheaper solution to
Mm.
films as opposed to fulfilling it in some other way. I really hope that changes in the near future. That there is a reckoning in VFX houses do unionize, and it's going to be a massive change for the industry, but a very necessary change.
Did you have any issues, any shots in this movie, Thor: Love and Thunder, that you had any issues with that you thought, "Ooh, that looks really, really rough"?
I mean, I thought it was fine. I don't tend to pick out that stuff too much because it doesn't bug me whenever I see like VFX shot that maybe looks a little wonky or whatnot. I just go with it. It's not something that sticks out to me as all that problematic or whatever. It's I don't know. It's low on my priority list.
Hunter.
Fair. Yeah. For me, the visual effects I thought looked basically the way I put it to my friend is if you put Skittles and cotton candy in a blender, that's basically what this movie is. But then on occasion, the movie will go, so I think the Shadow Realm stuff is some of my favorite MCU stuff because that's just a great excuse for Taika to go, oh, we're shooting in black and white for about 10 minutes. So it's like, oh, okay, that's cool. And there's this great shot of Gore, holding the sword, just telling Thor like get over here, motherfucker. I'm like, oh, this is like seeing that big. I was just like, yep, I love this. This is what I wanted. So there's a couple. My favorite or one of my favorite shots in the MCU is that shot in Endgame where Captain America looks out and he sees Thanos and his army coming closer, and it's just him on that hill by himself. I absolutely adore that shot. And there was this shot of Gore looking down on New Asgard at night before he's about to invade with his Kingdom Hearts creatures, and 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 that shot in particular is one of my favorite shots in the MCU. So there wasn't anything that really jumped out as far as like I was where I went, that looks a little rough because there are times I'll notice on occasion where a movie will like have a frame. I'm like, all right, that was a little like, all right, that needed another render, but nothing like that that really stood out for me. The use of powers, especially with Jane, I really liked how it did feel different from Thor as far as like the acrobatic aspect of her using Mjolnir in different ways. So, yeah, the visual effects really did actually work for me.
Yeah. Um, with the when it comes to the story of this movie, like you mentioned, Hunter, this is combining the Gore story and the Mighty Thor story. Both were written by Jason Aaron, who had two really great runs, a couple great runs on
Yes,
the
it did.
Thor
Yeah.
comics. With this, I felt like because I know Ragnarok kind of they did the same thing when they combined the Planet Hulk stuff and in the Ragnarok storyline. Um, I felt like with this movie, it should have been either the Gore stuff or the Mighty Thor. I don't think those two things meshed kind of well, and I think it just to me wasn't as seamless as it was in Ragnarok. They try to make a connection here with like Jane, who, if you've read the comics, the whole thing about her becoming Mighty Thor is that she's dying of cancer, but the only time where she's fully healthy is when she picks up and wields the power of Thor when she's holding Mjolnir. But it's also catch 22 because she gets sicker as she's when she is the Mighty Thor. Um, it just felt like they try to connect that with Gore the God Butcher because he's also dying from picking up this weapon as well. Did you feel them doing both these stories was seamless? Did you feel it was
Uh,
good, or you think it was just too much?
so for me, it definitely works because I think they don't draw a great parallel between Gore, just being a good person, still having shit taken away from him, and Jane when they talk about the fact of like how much stuff her research has gone ahead and just brought up as far as um, just like looking out into like the different realms and all that. Like she's been an incredibly important figure you know in science, and the fact that she gets cancer just feels like this completely unfair hand that she's dealt in the way that her and Gore, there's this point where Gore has all three of them tied up, and he kind of has that truth bomb moment where he's like, like you didn't do shit, and this is still happening to you, like that's where I'm at. You shouldn't be fighting me. You should be applauding me. And again, it's that, oh, he's not wrong. Fuck, that's really dark. And Portman sells that so incredibly well. Also, I love the whole fact that he calls her Lady Thor because that's what a bunch of assholes were doing when Jane got the mantle, and they're like, "A girl can't be Thor." That bullshit. And of course, it's maybe the best run of Thor or one of the best runs of Thor they've done. And so her actually correcting him on that, I thought was a nice, fuck you to the people who are just hating on, a girl can't have a hammer, like, that bullshit. So I think the stories actually mesh really well, especially at the end where Gore has the chance to, just go, yep, kill all the gods. But, he chooses love, and that was in the way that was actually done. Uh, I really did enjoy. So yeah, for me, the stories do mesh well. I will say I would have liked another like I could have done with this being like another 20 minutes longer.
Yeah,
But yeah.
Ashley.
Yeah, I agree. They're connected really well. There's an interesting piece that I read that talked about how you basically have Gore's origin story here, where, as you said earlier, he's basically he's his daughter has just died, and he meets his god, and it's like, we're dying. We've been worshiping you. We need salvation. We need your help, and his god doesn't care.
At all.
Completely ambivalent to the plight, and it's just like, yeah, you're supposed to worship me and then die miserable suffering lives. That's your whole purpose here. Now get away, I'm eating grapes. And that's what starts him on his whole quest to kill all gods. But on the opposite end of that, you have Jane, who has now got this stage 4 cancer that she's staring down the barrel of. And what happens? But the gods, essentially, Mjolnir calls to her and provides her own path to some form of salvation. Even though, much like Gore's, it is double edged, and it's essentially going to going to rob her at the behest of, what it wants as opposed to what she wants. But they essentially exist as two different kind of polar opposites of the same theological argument in the film. So it ends up creating like a perfect balance in the film, and I don't think if you did one or the other, that it would be near, at least in the story that they're telling here, it you'd have half a story, and I think it really creates a full story in this film.
Okay. Yeah. When it comes to like other aspects of the film, I dug the soundtrack. How they had Zeppelin in the last one. They hear with more '80s hard rock, where they do Guns N' Roses. I think it's a little too much because you even have a character in this who's Heimdall's son, who is now Axel. He goes by Axel. I think that was a little. I think that was a little too much.
So okay, I love that because I thought that they did Heimdall pretty dirty, and it really felt like Taika went, okay, how can we like Brian O'Connor this but not be offensive? And
Well,
basically they go like,
it's
go ahead.
it's funny you bring that up of doing Heimdall dirty because this is spoiled. Like I said, we're gonna spoil the mid credit scene. So the last post credit scene here that you have, which a trend now with these movies is they'll do two and they'll do one mid credits one that's important to set up stuff later, and then they'll do another one that's kind of like a little light-hearted, little kind of joke one. And then the last one of this is so Jane dies and she goes to Valhalla, and so is Heimdall? Is he like still a doorman? Is he still like a doorman or what? I mean, because even in
So,
heaven, he's still a
I,
doorman.
He's just in Valhalla. He's just like
yeah,
he's a
Okay,
familiar face.
yeah. So
It's like, what other familiar face would there be that's in Valhalla that Jane would recognize?
yeah, exactly. And
okay.
the thing that's actually important about that is that both scenes are actually important because um, Jane ends up becoming a Valkyrie in the comics. So
Ah, okay.
it like so it feels like they're very much like we want to keep Natalie Portman on board because she's already talked about the fact that she wants to come back for the next one, and so that's a very nice way to keep her around. She doesn't have to get into insane shape, but if they want to go and make her Valkyrie, that lane is right there, and I feel like that's exactly where we're heading with her, which is awesome
Yeah,
because that's a really fun comic arc. As far as Heimdall's kid, that's not a thing in the comics, so I was actually kind of like, oh, that's new. Okay, um, I hope they treat that kid again better than they treat Heimdall because that was a gripe of mine. But the fact that the fact that they had kids in this and the kids weren't just there to be saved, the fact the kids actually got in on like the action, very very Shazam in that way.
yeah,
I yeah, like I definitely was like Tycho was like, oh Shazam, like like it definitely came across like that. But the fact though that not only do the kids able to actually help, and not just be in distress, but you also have another way now to build up Asgard by having new warriors that Sif and Valkyrie can train. So it actually works double as far as moving forward for Thor 5. So I actually thought that was really cleverly done, and it was actually cool to see Thor um, kind of in this mentor role throughout the film, like trying to just kind of keep the kids calm, be like, okay, I got this, and the surprisingly simple reason for why Gore kidnaps the kids, I was like, oh yeah, you would need Stormbreaker, wouldn't you? Like it was something that just didn't even like honestly occur to me until we got about halfway through, and I went, oh, this is why you okay, okay, that makes sense. Like it's
Yeah.
simple, but it worked really well for me. Plus, having a girl use a bunny rabbit to destroy shadow creatures while November Rain is playing, I just went, "Yep, this is like I know some people won't like this, but I don't fucking care." Like I thought that was so much fun. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually think Axel again, little wink, wink, but yeah, I actually like the fact that they pulled that thread.
Uh,
the entire movie was like brought to you by Guns N' Roses, and while I did like it, it did feel a little bit overkill. Like in Ragnarok, we had the one song, and when it drops, it's just like, oh my god, this is killer. And then in this movie, it's like, and now time for your fifth Guns N' Roses song, and it's like,
Yeah.
So
that
so
felt a bit like beating a dead horse.
so for me, I kind of I read it kind of like I do where I read role models, where like I don't like Kiss in any way, shape, or form. I think Kiss is like maybe the most horse band of all time. Like Kiss Caskets, give me a fucking break. But whenever I watch role models, I'm like, man, Kiss kind of works for me. And I listen to it outside of role models. I'm like, oh no, this I don't like this. But uh, I'm more of a fan of Roses than Kiss, so it didn't bug me. But if there are people who say that, I kind of get it, but it didn't take
I
away
think
from it.
I more would rather like it's obviously like especially by the time you get to the end credits and you see the credit treatment, it's like the aesthetic that they're going for is painfully obvious. You know where they're going for that like
Saturday
classic
morning
like
cartoon He-Man.
early '90s like power rock sort of thing. Um, and if they're I have no problem with the Guns N' Roses, but if that's the aesthetic that you're like the tone you're gonna go for, mix it up with some different groups from that era. It doesn't all
Yeah.
just have to be like a greatest hits of Guns N' Roses thing. But it felt a little bit like what they were doing with early Iron Man, where everything was just like his brand is AC/DC. That's it, nothing else.
Yeah.
Yeah. The kid stuff. I think them getting powers at the end, where Thor bestows them with the powers of Thor momentarily. He makes sure to
Yeah,
specifies
exactly.
that.
Momentarily.
It felt like something kind of out of We Can Be Heroes, which was that Netflix movie with Robert Rodriguez. I felt like it just kind of had that feel to it a little bit. And when they were kind of fighting the shadow creatures, I was like, how are these kids really fighting these shadow creatures like this? You know what I mean? Like, who've never been in a fight before at all. I mean,
I'm kind of for it though because like it sort of feels a bit like the whole like into the Spider Verse thing. Anyone can be Spider Man. Anyone can wear the mask.
Yeah.
And I sort of dig that kind of like populist sentiment to superheroes as opposed to the chosen one sentiment of superheroes. And it may be a little hokey and unrealistic and whatever cutesy. It definitely was cutesy, but I kind of dig the sentiment that comes with it of just like anyone can be Thor.
Yeah, and to Ashley's point, I didn't hear anyone making that complaint when Billy Batson goes, "Here, everyone, be Shazam too." Like so it's like if you're gonna
uh,
call it out in this and not like I personally didn't have people giving the movie shit for that, and I
uh,
and I love Shazam too.
and
So
I really love Shazam. I think in Shazam it was like they turned into kind of like adult bodies. So you know what I mean. I think it was that, and then they were kind of, and some of them were kind of like I think some of them were like teenagers. Like one girl was like some of them were teenagers too. Uh,
I think Shazam was building to it more. If anything, the complaint with Thor is that it's just like, okay, and now this happens apropos of nothing that has been set up before. I think that's a legitimate criticism, but I got over that real quick because I enjoyed the moment.
yeah. So just a few things, and we're gonna be moving on to Minions. So with this movie, the way it ends, Jane passing away. We mentioned the Valhalla credit scene, which Idris Elba, nice of him to show up. He kind of showed up as Black Jesus at the end. Good look for
love
him.
Black Jesus. Yeah.
Cool for him. But the other mid-credit scene that we see is that Zeus did not die after Thor threw the thunderbolt through his chest. He didn't die. And then you also see that his son in the film Hercules, who I was surprised the actor they got to play
He's
Hercules.
here, he's there, he's every fucking where. Hercules, everybody.
Yeah. So
So I just hope that this means that like when Hercules actually like shows up proper, he is forced to square off against Jason Sudeikis.
Yeah. Jason Sudeikis for Reed Richards. Come on, everybody.
so you have Brent Goldstein from Ted Lasso who shows up as Hercules. I wonder how much of that physique is actually him or how much of it is CGI. I wonder, but he's there. So Hunter, where do you think this is leading with the mid-credit scene of Hercules being introduced?
Yeah. So okay. So one of the big complaints about Phase 4 is that people are like, we don't know where we're heading. we're heading for Secret Wars. Why is this so fucking hard for people to grasp? Like that's where we're heading. Like god fucking damn it, it's not hard to make that connection. But
Because
um,
unless you're a hardcore comic nerd that's read it, you don't know what Secret War.
eh, that's fair. But even like casual friends of mine are actually aware of what Secret Wars is. So it's like I do agree if you've read, obviously you're more of a comic book reader, you'll know. But I mean, they're setting up Young Avengers. That's way fucking obvious.
Like say what you will about like the Infinity War stuff, they set that up with like 5 different movie tags at the end where it's like
Yeah.
Thanos is like, well, I've assembled one more piece of my glove this
Yeah.
time, and it's like they
Yeah.
built people up to that. People knew where that was going.
True, and I mentioned it earlier, but the fact that Marvel's going to be at Comic Con, I feel like we're getting a full Phase 5 like rollout, like announcement. So because I think people are kind of going like, where are we heading? And I think that's going to be the very big like we're leading here. But as far as where else we're heading, Thor 5 is also going to be Thor versus Hercules, which I'm that'll just be fun to see because Hercules is such a dick in the comics. I mean, in mythology, he can be a dick too, but in the Marvel canon, he's really quite an asshole. But then he ends up becoming really one of the most stable and most important, I would say, B level members of the Avengers. So, I mean, he could easily end up on an Avengers team if they decide to go
Mm.
that route. As far as other things, and this is just nerddom kicking in. Valkyries, what do you call it? Not unicorn, steed, I guess.
Pegasus.
It's a Pegasus, isn't it?
Pegasus, thank you. But Aragorn, pardon me. That's in the comics too. But what's interesting is that that's actually originally the Pegasus of the Black Knight, who's already been introduced in Eternals. So that could be a potential connection if they want to go that route too, because they do show multiple Celestials in Omnipotent City.
Yeah.
They're not really acknowledged, but they are shown. And there's one that looks so much like Galactus, and I'm like, I feel like that's
Yeah.
not an accident. And like again, I could just be my nerd brain could just be going like reference, but I wouldn't be surprised because we do know the Fantastic Four out there. Um, we're getting Doctor Doom at some point. We kind of have to, but Galactus is one of the other big bads you could easily do after Kang, because because Kang is very important to Secret Wars as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if we get some sort of um, at some point down the road some sort of Galactus actual appearance. But I mean, this sets up that it definitely sets up Young Avengers even more. I feel like too because there is the outbase in Wakanda or the embassy in Wakanda, and I've been saying this and I'll keep saying it. A West Coast Avengers seems like a very easy Disney Plus show or movie to do if you wanted to, since you have the Wakandan embassy in Oakland. So I mean, there's multiple directions that they could go, but I think the big overarching one's going to be Secret Wars. So
Yeah. Ashley, what do you think about Hercules coming in?
I'd say Hercules is a character that I've never really cared for in the comics. But then, also so is Thor. Thor is a character I just never have given a crap about, and they've managed to make me like Thor. Actually, be one of my favorite characters in the whole Marvel universe, like in the film version. And that's a credit to both Taika and Chris Hemsworth. So, like, my mind is completely open about Hercules. I like the actor, or I mean, the only thing I've seen him on is Ted Lasso. So I like him on Ted Lasso, and I'll I'm game for whatever they throw at me. We'll see how it goes, but I try to I don't know, keep my expectations as minimal as possible, and it's not hard with Hercules since it's just not a character that I is close to my heart in any way. So we'll see what they do.
Yeah.
Um, as to whether or not they're like setting up a whole West Coast Avenger thing or like a Young Avenger. Young Avenger seems like it's more kind of like an obvious thing with what they've been setting up because with the Kate Bishop character and Hawkeye and a few of the other characters that they've been setting up, it seems like they're sort of like gearing towards the whole Young Avengers thing. I think a Disney Plus show seems like the smart idea rather than feature film with that. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, yeah, I'm excited to see what Hercules does in the future, what they see, what they do. Um, Now that we're coming, like there's going to be Thor 5 next. This movie, would you say it's? I guess would be a good description. It's 68% on Rotten Tomatoes right now. Would it be a good word to say divisive kind of with this film? Good one.
Guess so, because I've seen some really harsh reviews from people out there about the movie. Some people just
Same.
absolutely hate this movie, which just kind of astounds me. Um, I, the thing that it almost sounds dismissive to say it, but it seems like the most realistic reasoning for it is that I think a lot of people just kind of hit fatigue with these movies.
Yeah.
And they just don't care about them anymore, but they are still positioned as the movies and the monoculture that you need to be part of. And I don't blame anyone if they have fatigue with these movies at this point, because like even I feel it, even though I'm like still completely on board with these films. But there's also like a certain level of like, here we go again to it. It's like, and eventually it's gonna hit a brick wall where people just start tuning out, and it's gonna be before they've decided to wrap it up. It's the audience will decide it's done before Marvel does.
So
So it's that's what I think the negative reaction is, and I think it's the fact that people don't know where this is all headed. It just seems so scattershot.
uh,
Yeah.
So, with you, kind of the reaction with this film, do you think they're gonna course correct and maybe change the directors, change the tone, or do
Nah.
you think they're gonna keep?
No.
Okay.
I
They
think Kevin
yeah.
Feige knows exactly what their plan is,
Yep.
and he knows he's not going to deviate that from that one bit, and people will get on board or they won't. And
Yeah.
he seems to have been fairly committed to that from day one.
But I mean,
Yeah.
they did course correct with Thor after Thor: The Dark World, and they did do like, okay, well, we need seems like we need a change here in things and style and tone. So I don't know.
But Taika's also like someone who's in house with Star Wars too. So I think they have way too much invested in Taika to go, oh yeah, now you need to course correct Thor. I think they'll let him continue to do
Mm.
to do his vision. I agree with Ashley 1,000%. Papa Feige hasn't let me down, hasn't significantly let me down yet. Is what I'll say, and I'll be the one to say it. I think a lot of people are just being assholes about this because again we have a woman Thor, and because Phase 4 has been the most diverse phase that we've had. I mean, we have Kamala Khan now. We have a black Captain America, and do I need to even fucking remind people about how shitty people were about? We had to have Chris Evans come out and go, "I'm not Captain America anymore. Anthony Mackie is," and people are still like, "Not my Captain America." Yeah, so people are just being really pretty shitty about the fact that these are getting more diverse, and they're not done yet. People, like, we got Ironheart coming up. Like there's gonna be a black person wearing Iron Man armor. Sorry, another one. So that's gonna
Yeah.
piss people off too. So so I think that is a part of it that people just aren't bringing up. I'm kind of right there where if you think this is one of the worst movies of the year, like you must have just woken up from a coma and this is the first movie you saw because
Yeah.
Morbius exists, Uncharted exists, 365 Days exists, Tall Girl 2 exists. Like there's so much more shit that's come out this year that's way
Jurassic
worse than
World
this.
exists.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah, you
that's
already
not.
forgot about Jurassic World, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, no. So I bitch about that for like 2 weeks to the point that even I was just like, I need to put this on my brain. But fuck you, Colin Trevor. But yeah, there's so much worse that's come out this year. So if you're saying that this is the one of the worst films of the year, you haven't seen shit. Like, I'm sorry, you just haven't. So,
And it's
yeah,
a little bit that Marvel's like the big kid on the playground. It's like, if you're gonna take pot shots at like the person that's standing at the top of the hill, it's still Marvel. They've been there
yeah,
for a long time.
They've been
yeah,
doing these
but
movies
all
for 14 years now. 14.
Yeah,
yeah, which is crazy. But
that's a long time to be king of the hill.
yeah, but also I will be the person to say this shit too. Either say that Rotten Tomatoes matters or it doesn't. Because if I see one more Snyder stand go like, oh, see, it's rated this low, but oh, what about BVS? Shut up! Y'all like figure out your discourse and stick with it. Like I'm really sick of reading that shit. But I do think that after Comic-Con it'll be more clear where we're heading. So, we'll see if that helps with the discourse or not. But, Miss Marvel
Depending
got
on how much they reveal there, because typically they do it on their own, like their own Disney stage.
yeah, D23. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see if we get like a full I think we'll get a full phase five reveal. I think we'll get a reveal from like the rest of this year, which I mean we already know, but through like I'll go 2024. I'll go that far. I think we'll get like a 2 year roadmap of where
Yeah.
we're heading. But
Um,
yeah, this is something I really enjoyed, and yeah, I look forward to watching it in what Disney Plus like 45 days, something like that. So
so what's left in Phase 4? So you have Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, which is coming in November. That's the last film
come on,
of this year.
come on, Googler, please, for the love of God, come on, man.
I
Uh,
I have faith, even though we're down an actor on that one.
Yeah, which but Letitia Wright, wear your mask. God fucking damn it.
and then you also have She-Hulk, which is the last Disney Plus show, Marvel Disney Plus show that's going to
That's
be this year.
I'm
Uh,
excited for that. Yeah,
then you get
I'm a big She-Hulk stan, so
oh,
that
same.
that one's for me.
and then Guardians of the Galaxy 3, which comes out next year, May 5th.
And then February we got Ant-Man the Wasp: Quantumania,
Yep.
aka I feel like we'll see King before then. I
Well, he's
think,
in
but
Guardian 3, isn't he?
uh, I mean he might be
Maybe I'm wrong,
maybe.
but
Um, but Ant-Man comes up before Guardians, so in
Yes,
theory
it
we
does.
should see. Yeah,
Thank you for
yes,
that.
but I feel like we'll get Kang before then. Even if I have to wait until Ant-Man the
yeah, because
Wasp.
we got the introduction in Loki,
Yes.
Yeah,
and
and
then so I feel like there's got to be like another brief setup at some point.
yeah, but Jonathan Major is like a perfect actor because he looks a shocking. Like when I saw his face, I went, "Oh my God, he does look like King." I never even fucking thought about that. So I'm excited to see him. Hopefully not kill Scott,
Yeah.
but maybe kill Scott. So yeah, I'm really excited for Ant Man.
And then you have the Marvels, which is coming out July 28th, 2023. And then Fantastic Four, I think is going to be the end of Phase 4. Like, that's supposed to be the last movie of that phase.
Which we don't even have a director or actors for.
No, yeah, I think Comic Con we get a full. I think we get a full. I'll take two big swings at now. I think we get a full cast announcement from Fantastic Four, and I think we get X Men confirmation.
Ooh,
Um,
I think you're walking out on a limb that you're gonna fall off.
oh, and I am willing to fall off a limb, but I'm gonna take that swing. I'm gonna call both of those right now.
Yeah.
I think we're years away from them acknowledging doing anything with X-Men.
And you could be totally right.
So, final question, Phase 4. Thumbs up, thumbs down. And with these movies that have currently been released in Phase 4, where do you kind of put Thor Love and Thunder?
I think it's a mixed bag for the most part with Phase 4. I like most of what they're doing. I don't think there's been any real big failures. No, there hasn't been any failures in my book. Love and Thunder is probably near the top for me. It's definitely the most fun I've had in anything in Phase 4, that's for sure. Is it the best movie of Phase 4? Yeah, I think so. I think I liked it more than Spider-Man and more than Doctor Strange.
Hmm. Hunter?
I'm digging Phase 4. Like everything for the most part's like like a B+ is its mean, which, like if that's your mean, I'm more than okay with that. My favorite Marvel thing that's not an Avengers film came out in Phase 4, which is Falcon and the Winter Soldier. It's honestly one of my favorite seasons of television. I love Anthony Mackie and Sebastian Stan so much in that fucking show, and I love Shang-Chi and Multiverse of Madness for me is like a perfect blend of Raimi shit with Marvel shit. I mean, I didn't know that I needed a music note fight, but I got that shit, and I was like, "Well, god damn it, Sam Raimi, you brilliant bastard!" Like, I'm liking Phase 4. I'm not. It's not as good as Phase 3, which I think is, the big. I don't even want to say complaint, but coming off Phase 3, if this feels like a step down, I guess you could say that. Um, but I dug Shang-Chi. I dug no, Multiverse of Madness quite a bit. No Way Home is something that, as a Spider-Man simp, I really adore, even though there are issues with it. But and Miss Marvel is one of my favorite. Like, if they can stick that landing, that'll be right there with Falcon and Winter Soldier for me. I love Kamala Khan. Like, I'm such a fan of the character, and I just love how she's being portrayed, and the fact that we're getting scenes in a mosque in an MCU show is just it's fucking wild to me in the best fucking way. So yeah, I'm really liking Phase 4. I'm curious where She-Hulk's gonna go because She-Hulk interacts with so many characters. You could really pull anyone you really want to make that work. So I'm very intrigued by She-Hulk in particular, and I am scared for Wakanda Forever because, obviously we lost Chadwick, and I don't know what you do with that movie. Like, I really don't. Like, I know Namor's in there, and I know we get the introduction of Riri Williams, aka Ironheart. So there is stuff that movie look forward to, but that's such an insane ask without Chadwick. I just don't know how you make it work. But
Trusting Coogler.
I know I'm trusting the Cougs. We're friends. I'm trusting in Coogler, but like, and Ashley and I have talked about this. There's a reason why women slash people of color characters were always so invested in them doing a movie or a show, because if they fuck that shit up, they won't try again for another decade. I
Mm.
mean, how long? Like, DC made that Supergirl movie in what, 88, and how long did it take to first to get that show? So I'm really concerned about Wakanda Forever, but I have
I
faith.
feel like we've moved out of that quite a bit. Like, you could have like looked at something like Black Widow, be like, it got enough negative reaction that maybe that would be like a little bit of a death knell that like Marvel just doesn't try to do female led stuff for, anymore, at least for a little while. But Feige is very dedicated to bringing these types of characters to the forefront. He knows it's important.
Yeah, so I'm scared as a person of color for Wakanda Forever because I remember all the bullshit reviews when the film was excellent. So, a good to bad Black Panther film would be a whole other wave. So, come
Oh,
on. It'll be fine, hopefully. But
yeah.
There's going to be some hot bad takes out there when it comes out.
oh,
I can
absolutely.
I can guarantee you that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, yeah. But this Phase 4, yeah, I mean, it's been kind of a big mixed bag. I think there's some movies that could have been, my favorite, like Shang-Chi. I love the first half, but I think the second half really drops off heavy and goes downhill, I think,
Oh,
there.
dragons. Give me dragons, baby.
Yeah. The weakest, I think, is Black Widow and Eternals of this phase, two of the weakest movies
Yeah.
that were there. And then everything else, it just kind of feels like, I think, No Way Home, I think a lot of it is carried by nostalgia and all that stuff,
Yeah.
of that past. Multiverse of Madness, I would say maybe right now is maybe my favorite of these Phase 4 movies. I think maybe it's the best one.
Elizabeth Olsen going nuts. Fucking love it.
Yeah.
I think
Love
the
it so
thing I
much.
was probably most tepid on in this entire thing was probably Moon Knight.
Interesting.
I thought it had some good stuff in it, and I did like it, but I never got around to loving that show.
My big issue with Moon Knight is I needed that finale to be another 20 minutes longer. Like, because episode 5 is so fucking great. And I'm
Yeah.
just like, that finale is good, but it's like, it should have been great. And yeah.
Yeah.
I
But,
think Oscar Isaac carried that show and was doing some
oh,
incredible work.
absolutely.
But
Like,
outside of that, I think the show had a bunch of problems.
Yeah.
no.
All right. That was Thor: Love and Thunder spoiler review.